Guilty of sexual abuse, police bust a paedophile ring and save 4 kids from further harm. John Key's sharp warning about Waitangi Day after more fuss at the marae. And the real-life inspiration behind the movie The Blind Side gets its own Hollywood ending. Good evening. Police have busted a paedophile ring and rescued 4 children, including a 13-month-old toddler, from horrific sexual abuse. A Hawke's Bay man's admitted 60 charges, 2 others arrested. International police have been alerted, and One News has discovered the man who pleaded guilty today was also jailed for molesting an 8-year-old in Australia. As Simon Bradwell reports, he also lied during a high-profile trial there.
This is the face of a predator, Aaron John Elmers. Elmers today admitted 60 offences, including drugging and abusing children, filming it and dealing in people for sexual exploitation as part of a sophisticated paedophile ring.
This was the most significant ring that we've been involved in New Zealand. We've certainly worked on rings which were larger in number, but in terms of the serious nature of this offending, it's been the most significant one for us.
4 children aged between 13 months and 13 years have been rescued from Elmers and 2 other men.
His offending is some of the worst I've seen.
The police operation began 6 months ago, stretching around the country and overseas. Experts say more predators are out there.
There needs to be enough education and awareness in New Zealand, not to scaremonger, but just to make people alert to the risks, because this is evidence that these things actually do happen on our own doorstep.
Elmers has already served a 5-year sentence in Australia for abusing an 8-year-old boy. He was also convicted of giving false evidence at the murder trial of a man charged with lighting a Queensland backpacker fire that killed 15 people. In March 2011, more than a dozen children here were saved after police around the world busted an international child abuse ring. And in May last year, another massive police operation resulted in 55 arrests in 20 countries and 12 children rescued. In fact, since police formed the Child Exploitation Unit here at National Headquarters 3 years ago, 38 children have been rescued from abuse here and 15 more overseas.
You might think you're anonymous on the internet, but the internet's our hunting ground.
Police say this investigation's ongoing and more arrests are possible. Simon Bradwell, One News.
The fuss over who will escort him onto Te Marae hasn't put John Key off returning on future Waitangi days, but the Prime Minister's patience appeared to be wearing thin. Stanbury reports.
The Prime Minister's pōwhiri put on hold for 40 minutes while a standoff took place at the marae gates. Activist and Ngāpuhi elder TV1 Harawira refusing to give up her self-appointed role of escorting the Prime Minister onto the marae.
I've carried it out for the last 12 years and it's an important role.
A role marae trustees wanted Ani Taurua to carry out. A dual escort was eventually agreed on, but the scuffling wasn't over. John Key was less than impressed by the marae sideshows.
If you don't want to hear me, or people don't want to hear me, and people want to hijack the process, fair enough. But I'll ask you this question: how will history judge me? Because history will judge me well for having the courage of coming here year after year.
And despite the controversy, he'll be back again.
I've made a decision I'm going to keep coming to Waitangi and I'll keep coming to the Lower Marae. It's the easy thing for me to say, look, I won't come and walk away, but actually it's an important part of the engagement of dialogue between the Crown and Māori.
But others appear to have had enough.
What we can't do, though, is go on as a country crapping over our National Day every year at Waitangi.
Marae here belongs to all the people, and there's a committee set up to run it, and that's not real Tangata Whenua. But if you had it up at the top there, then you could hand it over to the tribe, and you'd get tribal etiquette all the time.
Harawira family aside, the day was notably protest-free, but confusion over a fight that broke out during the Governor-General's welcome yesterday still lingered.
It was explained to me that there was going to be a reenactment of an event that might have happened in 1840.
But some said they were genuinely afraid the man who's one of TV1 Harawira's sons was going to attack them. Drama aside, the real issues facing Māori can take centre stage tomorrow. Stanbury, One News.
Hundreds of people turned out in Wellington tonight to have their say on a controversial and costly issue, how to deal with earthquake-prone buildings. The government's proposing new national guidelines and held the first in a series of public consultation meetings tonight in the capital. Georgina Ball was there.
Plans to overhaul the rules for fixing earthquake-prone buildings are a controversial topic in the city notorious for its shakes.
Don't set the standard too high because this is going to crucify people. People haven't got the money to spend that it's probably going to be necessary.
Money's hard to get, so it has to be reasonable.
The government's key proposals are aimed at speeding up the process dealing with non-residential and multi-storey, multi-unit residential buildings. Councils would assess buildings within 5 years. Any found to be dodgy would be strengthened or demolished in a decade, and all quake-prone buildings would have to be dealt with within 15 years, instead of the current average of 28.
We could never have, the gold-plated standard so that every building was at current building standard, because you're talking of trillions.
But there are already fears accelerating the process could drive property owners broke, with an estimated 25,000 New Zealand buildings earthquake-prone.
There is the risk that it will put some people under a significant financial pressure. For some people that will hurry them along, but for some people there's going to be a real issue around how to pay.
72 submissions had already been received before the first meeting tonight, and with hundreds of people attending and 6 more meetings being held around the country, the government looks set to have no shortage of views to take on board.
Once the consultation period wraps up in March, the ministry in charge will report to the government, which will decide what law changes are needed to make buildings like these safe. Georgina Ball, One News.
A high-lift jack that can hoist a whole house in one go is attracting a lot of interest from groups linked to the Christchurch rebuild. The brainchild of a local company, this is the first time the $500,000 prototype's been used, lifting a Rolleston house that was destined for demolition 3 metres in the air so it can be fixed from the ground up, although it's a nervous watch for the owners.
Your stomach's churning, your heart's racing, and then they took it up about 6 or 8 inches at a time, and there it was, up there. Exciting. Yeah, it's time to go home now. Get it fixed, time to go home.
Insurers are already backing the jacking method, and the company is hoping to expand its operation. The Auckland man found burnt alive withdrew tens of thousands of dollars just hours before he disappeared, and police believe the missing money is connected to Shelvin Prasad's death last Thursday. Lisa Owen is across the investigation.
This is the bank where Shelvin Prasad made a hefty cash withdrawal just hours before he disappeared. Security footage shows he was alone and apparently relaxed. Police say at this point there were no obvious signs he feared for his life. The next morning his charred body was found. The money hasn't been.
Obviously the fact that a large sum of money was taken out the day he disappeared, and also the fact that this sum of money hasn't been located, we're strongly of the belief that the sum of money is somehow connected to Shelvin's disappearance.
Bank records show the 21-year-old saved the cash himself. Investigators won't say exactly how much. He had to break a term deposit to get it, and police want to know why he needed it right away. Shelvin's family describe him as naive.
So there is certainly the potential for somebody to have attempted to have taken advantage.
It was Shelvin's parents who noticed the money missing after checking his online bank account when he failed to show. The dead man's car was found more than 25 kilometres away from his body. Security footage puts it in Papatoetoe on Saturday. Police now want to know whether Shelvin Prasad parked the car here himself, if he met anyone else or he got into another vehicle, or whether his Toyota was dumped here after he was killed. And police want help finding Shelvin Prasad's wallet, keys and cell phone, which are all still missing. Lisa Owen, One News.
Despite new restrictions on dairy product imports to China, a Chinese company is still going ahead with a plan to build a milk processing plant in Waikato. State media in China reports regulations are being toughened up in response to a series of incidents, including news that residual traces of the chemical DCD were found in some Fonterra products. It's a controversy one exporter says has cost him business.
We lost an order yesterday of 250,000 that was in the pipeline, and they've asked for their deposit back and just said that while this controversy is on, it's not a good time for them to proceed.
Yeah, Shirley International says they have a high regard for New Zealand products and quality systems, and the plant in Pōkeno, when built, is likely to create nearly 100 extra jobs. The image of the world's most popular sport has taken a battering, with revelations hundreds of soccer matches have been fixed in a global betting scam. Investigators say among the games under suspicion are World Cup qualifying clashes and European Champions League fixtures. The BBC's Tim Franks has more.
The global game is at risk from a global crime network. What had long been feared but only quietly talked about was today painfully exposed. Don't let the bland setting detract from Europol's revelation that match fixing has infected the highest reaches of football.
This is match fixing activity on a scale that we've not seen before, involving hundreds of criminals and corrupted officials and players, affecting hundreds of professional matches and generating very large amounts of illicit profits.
Rigging a match is difficult in team sports, but one example came to light 2 years ago. In this friendly between Estonia and Bulgaria, the Hungarian referee awarded a rather unlikely 4 penalties. He and several other match officials were given life bans for fixing. Today's announcement suggests it was no aberration. Worldwide, 680 recent matches are under suspicion, including a Champions League tie played in England. 15 countries in Europe have been tainted, and there are at least 425 people involved, officials, players and criminals.
It's, something that we don't want involved in the sport at all, in any sport, let alone, being part of that. Completely shocked. I don't want to be related to anything like that.
Are you going to quit? Are you going to quit?
Asian betting rings are believed to be the captains of this criminal industry. They were also behind the fixing that led to 3 cricketers from Pakistan going to jail 2 years ago. International criminal networks, a mishmash of global rules. The problem is becoming clear. Fighting and defeating it will be much tougher.
A SL4 college in West Auckland is trumpeting its world-beating success in the Cambridge exam results. A Year 13 student at Avondale College got top of the world ranking in psychology, and 3 Year 11 students topped the country for physics, chemistry, biology and accounting.
There's a great deal of hard work going in by students and staff, and the staff are going the extra mile, and the students are very engaged now, very excited about it, and they're happy to put the extra work in to take them up to that level.
They're not alone in success. 4 students at AGC Parnell College also topped the world in exam results, with 6 achieving best in New Zealand results. Very good. All I got in the sciences was do try better. Just ahead, a bizarre way to bring manners back to school. And 500 years on, a notorious King of England's found buried in a car park. And the teenager shot for fighting for girls' schooling speaks out for the first time.